Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we're going to be talking about Disney's Lorcana Illumineer's Quest, Deep Trouble. And this is published by Ravensburger. But before we talk about it, we just want to remind you to subscribe so you can see all our videos as they come out.
All right, so this is obviously a game that rolls off the tongue, really easy to say.
So easy.
But basically what's going on here, this is a 1 or 2 player cooperative game. And it's all in the world of that Lorcana, that TCG. But in this box is everything you need in order to play up against the big bad, which in this case is Ursula. So you're given 2 decks. If you're playing solo, you can choose one of them, or if you're playing 2-player, you can use those 2 decks. You can even use your own Lorcana decks as well, if you're a Lorcana player, to face up against Ursula. This is kind of a separate kind of a game within Lorcana. It's its own little challenge within Lorcana.
Yeah.
All right, so normally I would kind of go through and teach you guys how to play. Because Lorcana, we've already taught you how to play Lorcana, and it uses more or less the same rules. I'm not going to do that. I will put a link below in the description to our original review of how to play Lorcana. Give you our initial thoughts as well, if you want to check that out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what's different and how to approach fighting up against Ursula in Deep Trouble. All right, here's our setup. We have Ursula herself over there. We have Ursula's starting item, which is Ursula's stolen trident. And then we have Ursula's deck. This is kind of the player mat that you were given. Once you've played a few times, you don't really need it anymore. But it does include things like a reminder of how many cards to draw and where her lore counter is. It also gives you some additional lore counters that you can use, or if you're more familiar with the lore counter dials, you can use those as well. So that's all you're going to need. You're going to need some lore counters, and you also need some damage counters. You can use the ones that come with the game. I use the dice that I got from a different one because I like those a lot more. The game also comes with 2 decks that you can use. They both have kind of a different theme to them, and they both give you different ways that you can approach the game. However, you can also use your own Lorcana decks. Once you're more familiar, you've played with the base ones, you can use the cards that you've already made, the decks that you've already made, and that way you can approach her with your own style of play. And after that, you can even customize all new decks to face her once you're more familiar with her cards in her deck. The way her turn order is going to go is actually printed right here on the board, but it's also on the rulebook as well. What's going to happen is all of her cards are going to ready at the beginning of their turn. Remember, once cards have been exhausted, they're turned sideways like that. So if there's any exhausted cards of hers, she goes ahead and she readies them at the beginning of her turn. Next, she's going to set, which means all the cards that have a starting turn effect are triggered now. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to resolve her row. Right now, we only have 1 card in the row, but it says you can go ahead and exhaust that to gain 1 lore. Now comes her draw phase. We're going to go to her draw tracker over here. Right now it shows that she can draw 2 cards. So we're going to draw 2 cards, put them into her hand. All right, and the last part of her turn is going to be to reveal her hand. Normally what's going to happen is, if you have enough ink in your inkwell, you can play the cards by exerting the ink. Ursula works a little differently. Basically, all you have to do is see if she has enough ink, and then you can play any of those cards. If she does not have enough ink, that card becomes ink. So let's go ahead and flip the first card over. All right, so this is a 5 cost. We do not have 5 ink, so it essentially goes into the inkwell, face down. Now, Ursula has 1 ink. Next card, this one costs 2, and we don't have 2, so this again becomes ink. So now on her next turn, she'll have 2 ink to start off with. All right, now it's our turn. Basically, we're going to play our turns like normal. We're going to draw our cards. We're going to play some ink. We're going to be able to play some cards based on how much ink we have. And if we're playing a 2-player game, everything is simultaneous. So all the benefits that you have, you can kind of spend over to your other teammate as well, so that we can help you out, you can help them out, and so on and so forth. All right, let me show you just one more turn of hers. So at the beginning of the turn, we're going to ready all of her exhausted cards. Now we're going to do any start of turn abilities, which she doesn't have any currently. We're going to resolve the row, which again means we're going to exhaust this to give her yet another lore she's taking up there. Now we're going to draw cards based off our card level. All right, now we're going to resolve the hand. All right, this one costs free. This is 0. So it's going to go right in there. Nothing's going to happen quite yet unless it had an immediate effect, like an action. This one's just a character. We're going to play it out there. All right, this card, this is a 7 cost. Thankfully, we do not have to face Jafar. This would be awful. But it's going to go into her inkwell. And now it's our turn again. When there's characters out here on the board, what's going to happen is they are just going to quest automatically every single turn. You're going to get as much lore as they have on that symbol on the side of their card over there. The one exception is if they have Reckless. If they have Reckless, what they're going to do is they're going to attack every turn instead of quest. If a character comes out, it just comes out like normal, and then it's either going to quest or it's going to attack if it's got Reckless. If it's an item, it's going to stay out there, and it's going to exhaust every turn to enact its ability. If it's an action, when you play it, it's going to do whatever it does, and then it's going to go put into the discard pile over here. There are going to be cards that come out that allow her to draw more cards. And when that happens, you're going to move that up. But then one more thing, we have all these different battlegrounds. So basically, this is how you turn her difficulty level up. So it starts off with easy, then you can go to a normal difficulty, then you can go to a hard, and eventually to an extreme. Basically, whatever version you choose, you're going to have some things happen to you. First of all, she's going to gain more lore. Based off the player count, when she gets to, let's say, 20 lore, she's going to start drawing even more cards, which means more things are going to be coming out, and she's going to be going faster and faster, more ink, more expensive cards are going to be played, so on and so forth. But these battlegrounds do give us a little bit of a benefit as well, which is over here in terms of the player abilities. What happens is you could actually spend your own lore, which is victory points, which is kind of scary, but maybe it's important to do it situationally. What you can do is you can spend the listed amount of lore on that battleground in order to do a special ability. The top one says you can choose a character to get 2 extra attack this turn. Or you can spend 2 lore to gain a resist +1 until the start of your next turn. That could be really important. Or you can spend 3 lore for each player except Ursula to draw a card. Just if you don't have like a lot of card draw in your deck, that could be a really important way to get some cards in your deck, and as long as you're getting that lore back up some other way, because 3 is a lot of lore to spend. So that's ultimately how we're going to win or lose the game. If Ursula gets to 40 points, we are going to lose the game. However, if each player who's facing her can get up to 20 lore on their own tracker before she gets to 40, we are going to win the game. As a little bit of a strategy tip, the more cards she gets out there, the more lore she's going to accumulate really, really fast. So you're going to need to start building up some cards that can attack her characters or get rid of items, things like that. That's going to be really important to you. Also, if you are able to defeat her, you do get a little kind of a pack here that you get to open up that gives you an additional card. So it's very fun to do, but you can only do it if you've beat her. So be careful with that and have fun.
I highly recommend the first time you play this, use the decks they give you. And I love that they give you decks. It's almost like a batteries included type of thing,
Yes.
right? Materials provided. You just get it and you can play. It was really fun to be able to do that and use those decks and then try to use some of my own decks, which totally did not work, but that is fine. But I like that it gave you everything to start with. And the fact that you got all of those cards so you could play this game and be like, I'm going to put these in my own deck, because you can do that. It's all your stuff. You can do whatever you want. But I like that. The best way I can describe it is materials provided. You don't have to have any Lorcana to be able to play this game, because it gives you everything you need straight from the get-go in order to play this game. This isn't like an expansion. It's a standalone using the same system that they're already using in Lorcana, and I really, really liked that.
So I've played a lot of like TCG or CCG style games where you have to make your own deck ahead of time and then face it head to head against someone else who's made their own deck ahead of time. And one of the most frustrating things about that is having to test it. Much like a game designer needs to play test their deck games over and over again, you need to test your own deck over and over again to see how it works in different scenarios. So I remember playing like Pokemon cards way back in the day and making a deck up, and then I had to make another deck up, and then me as one person was controlling both decks, kind of testing them against each other, but I knew what was in each other's person's hand, right? I knew what was coming, and I knew how to defend against it. It's a horrible system. You know, you can't. How else are you going to do it?
Yeah.
You can kind of cerebrally try to do it, or if you're very, very lucky, you have friends that you can they can test each other against. But what happens when your friends aren't available, or what happens when you just don't get to a weekly gaming night, or whatever the case is? You know, you don't get a chance to play the games that you want to play. You can't test your decks. This actually provided a really, really interesting system to where, as a solo, person making a deck, I don't have to wait around to be able to play against another player or test my deck against another player or try to solo against myself. I can solo against her, against Ursula. It's a fantastic way to play your decks and play a CCG as a one player. It's a really interesting system. And of course, she doesn't act exactly like another player would, but she has some really strong cards, and you can kind of, play against her and react the same way that you would against another player. It's a really fun way to do that.
Yeah. I actually really liked how Ryan said you can play it just you versus Ursula, but I liked the 2-player version as well, and it was really fun because it's like they really thought about all the things they were going to do when they started this collection, because some of the cards and how they interact, you knew that this was coming down the pipeline, and she's really difficult. She is so difficult. We've only defeated her once. She's just very, very hard, but I like that 2-player version and how you can try to help each other, and how it's you can discuss and strategize and like, okay, well, we just need to get Laura this turn. We're so behind on Laura. We really need to get rid of some of her cards this turn because she's just rocking our socks off. And so I really liked how that 2-player version worked, and that it is just 2-player. It wouldn't work with so many players, and so that's why they say 1 to 2, because that's really all it is. You can't have a million people play this game. But I just really, really liked that, and I liked that she was challenging. She was very challenging.
Well, speaking of that, also, you can actually change her difficulty level on top of that. So there is like an easy, a normal, like a hard, and like a mega hard. And by the way, they're all hard. But the mega hard is the hardest. And so you can, kind of start off by playing the decks that come in it and facing against the normal challenge. And then as you kind of learn what's in the deck of hers and what you might be coming up against, then you can up the difficulty level, but then also change your own decks to modify to match that. And you kind of keep on going up, and the more and more you go through it. And also, one thing I want to say is when you do finally defeat her, not only does it feel so good, but also there's a special card for you in the box that you get to open and unlock once you defeat her for the first time. So that is kind of first of all, it fits the CCG kind of theme of the game. You get to unlock a cool card, but once you defeat her, but it's also just really fun to be able to get this access to this new card, and it looks amazing. I'm not going to tell you anything else about it. I'm not going to spoil that, but it's worth doing just for that.
So overall, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I want to see like more bosses, and I like that you can play your own card. I remember playing. There's a princess deck that I created, who totally sucks against Ursula. My deck that I created that did, I thought, such a wonderful job for me playing amongst other people, totally sucks when playing against Ursula. I need to use some of my kids' decks that they've created to see.
High power stuff.
Yes, yes. Like the strategy that works for that just did not work for defeating Ursula. But I bet that there will be, I hope, I guess I should say, that there will be like other bosses that are going to work differently, and you'll have to have a different strategy behind that. So I kind of want to see what else is going to come out here. I want to see what other big bads are going to be out there that I can play against, to find one that I can defeat with the deck that I've created.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of leads into that. This is Illumineer's Quest, Deep Trouble. So I'm feeling there's going to be more Illumineer's Quests.
Yeah.
Something. That's my hope anyways. Yeah, I'm loving this. I like Lorcana anyways, and this just gave me so many more cool tools to work with and play with, and gears to turn, things like that. I love, tweaking all that and just exploring it and trying to modify decks specifically for her, but at the same time giving all the cards that this box provided in order to put in other decks as well. That was fantastic. One thing I do want to point out, though, there is one card in her deck in particular that was extremely strong. I mean, we're talking about almost like too strong. Yeah. Like, it's a challenge.
Like, not fun.
Yeah, it's not fun when this card comes up. So just be aware that there is some she's powerful, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, real powerful.
Even in that deck, there's only one of that card.
That's true.
She might not be able to afford it, and it might become ink.
That's true.
Yeah.
So there is some ways around it, but when it comes out, it's going to ruin your day. Just know that that's going to happen, and you'll probably lose that game when it comes out.
Yes, that's it. You are losing that game when it comes out.
That being said, I've had a great time playing this.
Yeah.
I look forward to exploring even more.
If you dig Lorcana, I would definitely check this out. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. Until then, you can find us in all of these places.
You guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
You guys, thanks so much for watching. This game was provided to us by a publisher in exchange for a fair and honest review.
And if you want to see more stuff, check out over here to see something we think you might like.
And over here, we think that YouTube has picked out a great video for you you're going to love. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.